Hi, I'm Jonathan from Verdigado, and I'm here to talk about open source for political parties, specifically the German Green Party. Parties nowadays obviously depend on digital collaboration tools for their members and their employees to do their work. Obviously, a lot of the information they deal with is quite sensitive in nature, so both security and privacy are critical. The German Green Party makes extensive use of open source software. It has for a long time. And this talk is about how that came to be and the details of one open source deployment, the Grüne Wolke, which is a literal translation of green cloud to German. Oh, the slides are a bit messed up, but I think most of it can be read. So, in 2006, Netzbegründung was started by members of the party and formally registered as an association in 2014. Netzbegründung Verein für Grüne Netzkultur e.V. Its goals are to promote green values in IT. That doesn't just refer to sustainability, but also to social values, including sustainability, obviously, digital sovereignty, accessibility, and improving democratic participation through digitization. Obviously, when we hear a lot about digital rights and all that stuff, it's a lot of negative attempts of legislation and all that, and I think that's very important to keep positive visions in mind, even when fighting, for example, chat control or something like that. So also providing a positive vision, what digitization could do for democracy. And the second part of Netzbegründung is advancing digitization of the party. So here are two examples that I'm going to get into. First, short is the Netzbegründung Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT, which is a team of volunteers, of party members, or most of them, I guess, are party members, who have signed up that if some security incident in the party occurs, they are right there and will try to help and give their expertise to mitigate the situation. And secondly, the group set up tools for the party to use that are based on open source software. So, the Netzbegründung is close to the party, but it's not a literal part of the party, and you don't have to be a party member to join. So, those tools gained in popularity in the party with the members and the employees quite rapidly, and but at the time it was still maintained by volunteers, and therefore limited by how much time they could spend on that on this volunteering. And when one phone call came in, we're currently in an important negotiation with another party who is going to be the next state government, and we need our documents, and the next slot is down. What are we going to do? We can't work like this. The party infrastructure needs to be up at all time, and you can't guarantee that with volunteers. So in 2020, Verdigado EG, a cooperative, was founded. The members of the cooperative are the Green Party Federal Organization, all 16 state chapters, and the Netzbegründung e.V. Its goals were to hire more people to run those important tools for the party. Currently, we're 25 people. To take on more of such projects for the party, to further the digitization, and to allow the Netzbegründung to focus more on its activism and spinning up experimental services instead of running important production workloads. So let's have a look at those open source software we currently deploy. You might recognize many of those logos on there. We use Nextcloud, RocketChat, Typo3, Jitsi. Keycloak is used for the central party single sign-on. Netzbegründung has spun up a complete Fediverse stack with Mastodon, PeerTube, and PixelFed. We host Odoo instances, Matrix instances, Zamat, Passport and Wiki.js for knowledge management, and many, many more. It was more of a matter of that's enough icons and not a matter of running out of open source projects we use, including many that are more on the side away from the user and the backend. For example, our VMs run Debian, and we use Proxmox and all that good stuff. And whenever we change something on this software, if it's practical and useful for others, we try to contribute back to the upstream. We don't just deploy open source software for the party, we also develop open source software for the party. One of the biggest projects is the Green Party app, the new one, which is used for the digital coordination of election campaigns. That's stuff like tracking where all those campaign posters were put up, because there is a time limit and they do have to come down again, so that needs to be tracked. And how many people got flyers and all that kind of stuff gets tracked in the app, and it also provides news to party members. This had quite an interesting development process, because pretty early on in the development of this new app, the governing coalition broke apart suddenly, and this app had to go from early stages of development to ready and in the app stores in a very fast time, because a new election was coming around a lot sooner than expected. But we got it done. I still don't know how my colleagues managed that. We also developed a free WordPress theme. You don't even have to be hosting with us to use it, and you don't even have to be a part of the party to use it. You can just not use the party logo and change a few colors, and off you go, have a nice WordPress theme. We also developed Keycloak plugins. I already mentioned that the central party login system is based on Keycloak, and we developed a few plugins for that. One of them might surprise you, which is SMS second factor. And you might say in 2026, that's quite an outdated second factor. It's not the most secure. I guess it's better than nothing, but it's not that much better than nothing. Yeah, because it's a political party and its purpose is for members to be able to participate. And if you do not want to have a smartphone, you only want a dumb phone that can receive an SMS, that should not hinder you from participating in the party. So it needs to be there for as a basic fallback for everybody that can use it. Yeah, and we also developed the Authentico app second factor. So you might know this from commercial services, where it is quite normal to get on a login attempt on your desktop, for example, to get a pop-up or a notification from your app, and then a screen asking you, is this really you? Is this your login attempt? And you can simply verify it from your phone. And this is not a thing in Keycloak so far, so we developed it. It is implemented in the party app that I mentioned in the beginning, but it is also, that part of the app is also extracted into a separate app, so you can download it from the App Store. You can use it with whatever Keycloak instance you want, if that Keycloak instance uses a plugin. So not just technically open source, but actually open source, and everybody can use it, and it's not just some code sitting on GitHub, nobody using it. What the main second part of the talk will be about is our Nextcloud plugins. One I will introduce very shortly, very swiftly, is DAVPush. So the people in the audience that use Nextcloud might have synchronization with their phone set up, which is, I guess, quite a common use case. On Android, you need an extra app for that. The most popular is DAVX5. I guess probably people in the audience have that installed on their phone right now. And how that works, it's in the background every 5 minutes. It synchronizes the calendars and contacts lists and all that. And it's a background process running on a schedule. And that might be okay to sync your grocery list, but it's not going to cut it for a politician's calendar, because that's going to change very frequently and very suddenly and very shortly before the event or something. And we got the feedback that is not usable for them. So we collaborated with Bitfire, the developers of DAVX5. They created a new protocol and implemented it in the app, DAVPush, which allows the DAF server to notify the app that a change has occurred, and it can immediately sync. This uses unified push, so it's completely Google free if you want. And we developed the Nextcloud side of that, so also open source. So let's talk about the last one on the list, which is going to be the second part of the talk, is organization folders. So what's that? Let's talk about Grüne Wolke, which I mentioned at the beginning. It's the cloud storage, the central cloud storage for the entire party. It is based on Nextcloud. I should mention to this room, to this audience, that it uses Collabora Online. It actually used to be only Office, but we got complaints that it has syncing issues between multiple people. So we installed Collabora and have not heard a complaint since. So good job to you guys. And it is connected to a central party single sign-on, where every member gets a login when they join a party. And that brings, exactly, the SSO transmits the person's roles and memberships in the party from the central member database to the Nextcloud. And this whole setup brings a few challenges. There's 150,000 party members. Obviously, not everybody logs into anything, into everything, and not everybody is a particularly active member, but that's quite a few people. And the party has 2,700 local chapters. That's states, cities, and even smaller than that. And each of those local chapters has 30 to 450 user roles that a user could be in. Those are represented as groups on the Nextcloud side. And that means we are running a Nextcloud with 20,528 different groups. When installing a new app, we had to optimize them because most of them do not cope with this well. Yeah, that's it for this slide. So a bit about the history of this instance. It started as a vanilla Nextcloud installation, and then a volunteer from Netzbegründung developed a custom plugin to give every local chapter their own storage space. This is obviously much better than shares between users, where the permissions depend on who created the document, which doesn't really make sense. And if that person leaves the party, for example, the document's gonna get deleted when the accounts get deleted. That's not how anybody can work, so it's much better. It had a simple UI to manage the permissions of those folders, but it could only do the permissions of top-level subfolders of those local chapter storage spaces. It was technically open source, meaning it was licensed HGPL, but it was not useful for anybody else. It had party nomenclature all over the code base. It was hardwired to an internal API. So that is an API that is used to get the structure of the party, all the local chapters, all the roles within them, everything like that. And it wasn't customizable unless you changed code. So it was good enough for us, because we can change the code and we are the only one using it, but it's not scalable for anybody else to fork it and do those changes and rebase everything for every new release. So. When we took over development, Verdigado, we developed new features. Now the permissions management works for folders at any depth. How does a whole permission system work, we will get into later. We added a self-service restore from backups. So the server it uses ZFS for the data storage and takes regular snapshots. So when people ask in support emails, can you please restore this document I actually deleted 2 months ago? We said yes, but it's gonna take some admin, like 30 minutes of time or 15 minutes of time. So we automated that so that people with the right permissions can also restore stuff from backup themselves. We rewrote the front end. It was PHP backend based front end. We rewrote it in the modern Vue.js stack of Nextcloud. And last year or 2 years ago, 1 year ago. We rewrote the entire backend to be organization agnostic, meaning it is no longer hardwired to the party, but it can be used by others. And we published it in the Nextcloud App Store as Organizations folder app. So again, not just technically open source, but actually allowing participation and all that stuff. Okay. So organization folders. It's built on Nextcloud team folders, previously also known as group folders. Many of you might use them. That provides user-independent storage space, and it manages permissions using access control lists. There are 3 main problems when adapting Nextcloud team folders for our specific use case. ACLs are really complicated and are really meant for admins, and we will get into the differences between our permission system and team folder ACLs right after this. And the permissions to manage ACLs is given out for an entire team folder, in our case a local chapter at once, which is not granular enough for us, but we built our own permission system with its own GUI, and nobody gets the permissions to edit the underlying ACLs. So that's pretty easy to solve. And third, team folders, or Nextcloud in general, has no idea about the structure of the organization. All it sees is a flat list of 20,000 groups. And that would not be a good experience to manage the permissions with. So, organization folders, I have not much time left. Organization folders is organization structure aware, that's where it gets its name, which allows you to pick the group you want to give permissions to using a tree structure where you can navigate through the organizations and sub-organizations and pick up the role you want with clear naming. And so it's much better than the flat list of groups in the last slide. As you can see, this is the organization folders permission system, and this is the team folders permission system. I think it's already a lot cleaner. The main differences are that there are only 3 levels of permissions in an organization folder, these 3. That's members, managers, and inherited. So the main difference, how we made the ACL simpler, the permission simpler, is that inheritance is no longer inheritance is no longer implicit but explicit. So using this row, if you clear all those checkboxes, then there's no inheritance at all, which is a huge foot gun in group folder ACLs, because is really easy to inherit stuff you don't want to inherit. And there are at maximum, as I said, 3 levels of permission, and each group or user or role gets assigned one of the 2 permissions levels. So it is simpler than ACLs. Obviously, it's less powerful, so you cannot do crazy ACL constructs, but it is enough for most use cases. I think it works very well for the party, which needs to be managed, where the permissions need to be managed by normal people, not administrators, because no administrator can decide for 2,700 local chapters how their permissions should look. Okay. I don't think we have time for questions because I already took too long. But if you have any, you can email them to me. And thank you for listening.